This is the Storypunks podcast, the show where we talk about all the punks, so steampunk, dieselpunk, cyberpunk, and all the other punks. This is episode 52. I'm your host, Cindy Grigg, and this is an episode coming to you from Wild Wild West Con. As I mentioned earlier in the season, when I interviewed Professor Elemental and others, I interviewed quite a few people at this conference. So I think we have 3 episodes left where I will be sharing interviews with different makers or creators that I met at this fabulous venue. These 2 that I have on the show today are such an amazing duo. I have Madame Askew and the Grand Arbiter. So if you have been to one of their events, you've already experienced this wonderful dynamic they have between the 2 of them. They have this amazing friendship, and it really comes through, and it was all created through steampunk, which I absolutely love. Now, one thing I'll mention is that I will be off screen. There's 2 of them. It was a convention space. I was trying to work it all out, and so I am speaking from off screen, but you'll hear my voice and you'll mostly see them. That's okay, because you're used to me, and they're the stars of this interview. So the other thing is that there will be a little bit of background noise. At this stage, so I was trying different setups. At this stage, we were indoors and I was able to have my mic and my equipment with me. So it sounds really, really good for a convention space, but it is still a live event, and I hope that you'll keep that in mind as I share this wonderful conversation with you. And hopefully it just gives you the ambiance and a feeling like you are there at the Wild Wild West Con. So as far as my personal update, last week was a holiday week, and I mentioned that I went off-grid a little bit. I went to this lake that I'd never heard of, even though it's apparently a thing in my area. So, and I'm always a little vague. I got some questions like, why aren't you telling us the specifics? But it's just because of safety. I never say where I'm going specifically because that would just be dumb. But I'm always going to be a little bit vague about that stuff. But I still want to share, and especially I want to share what I did and the experience I had. I have really been struggling bringing together one work in particular, and that is my Super Saga. So many episodes ago, I was talking about this series, Peacock Levine and the Ethereal Fates of Not. It's Norse mythology, it's steampunk, and it's like 30 books. So that was a conscious decision I had to make. Like, am I going to write something that long? And so I actually wrote the first books about 6 months ago, but there was just so many problems with the whole scope of the story. So what I did when I went on this break last week is, obviously I had some downtime, spent time with people I love and all that good stuff. But there was definitely some time when I could go away, and there were a few days where I just marooned myself. This is kind of a freaky thing to do as far as just boredom or having to face something that you've been not so much procrastinating, but just not knowing what to do with, right? I'm sure every creative out there knows what I'm talking about. But I finally just bit the bullet and blocked off this time, and I made myself listen to the whole thing. So before I left, I actually read it into an audio file, and I wouldn't let myself really think about it. Like, I was really detached, which was hard to do because I self-edit, and all that good stuff. But I just made myself do it. But then once I marooned myself, I made myself listen to it with a pen and paper, and I just marked every single thing that drove me crazy. But the cool thing, I definitely didn't catch it all that way. That's not like a strong editing strategy, but more so it was a way to make it move quickly and to get the overall feel for what might have been wrong. And that's what I was scribbling down. So I wasn't like, oh, there should be the there or whatever. I wasn't fixing things like on a line editing type of level, but more big picture, more developmental. So I'm just sharing this in case anybody else has just a massive work by chance and they're just stuck like, I can't see the forest for the trees anymore. That's a really good analogy, actually, because I was in the trees. I was by the lake. I mean, it was so beautiful. And so I really think it helped to not be in my usual creating space, not in my house, not, anywhere where I could get distracted by anything. I literally just had food, my dry toilet, too much information. I don't know. But, just the very basics. I didn't have internet. So I did go out on the lake, and I'd let myself listen to the files in the boat. But it's just, I wasn't around anyone. I just seriously zeroed in, and that's what it took. So the end of all this, and just bringing it to some kind of conclusion here for my update, I am getting closer to being able to share this with a group of beta readers or listeners. I'm going to offer both options, and I really do need the help. I really appreciate everyone who listens to the show. And so if you have a little time and want to take a look or a listen, then please do join my Patreon. A lot of people are used to Patreon. It's a way to support artists. You pay $1 or $2 a month or whatever level they have available. So right now, what this beta reading group will be through there. And then there's also a place where you can donate money if you'd like to support the podcast and everything that I do here at patreon.com, patreon.com/Storypunks. Other than that, I am just totally stoked to share this interview with you. I know, once again, that you're going to get a lot of energy from this. So get ready for that infusion of steampunk awesome. Here we go. Madame Askew's temporal entourage is a fine assemblage of time-traveling, tea-drinking aficionados who are very fond of sharing their madcap brand of tea-centered merriment at steampunk events. From special events to interactive improvisational theater to informational panels, Madame Askew, the Grand Arbiter, and their team of good-natured rascals love to encourage new friends to jump into their energetic blend of games and community building. Perhaps they will see you at one of their spectacular upcoming events.
Okay, good. Excellent.
Okay.
This just in. The Grand Arbiter has a microphone.
No, someone gave you a microphone?
A microphone.
A microphone?
A microphone.
That's magic.
Like an Elizabeth oven. A
Yes.
microphone. No, we're a little cheeky. We're just delighted to be here. We love being invited to little salons.
Yes, we've totally forged one out of the corner of this convention room. Anyone watching YouTube can see their amazing costumes, which is a big part of their presentation. They do such a great job. But for anyone who has not had the pleasure of seeing one of your events, can you please just give us an overview of what you do for the person who's just brand new to you?
Yes. So there's a number of things that we do. So we do tea dueling, which is, of course, an ancient and refined art.
The Tea Scouts have been in existence for about a year. We debuted them last Wild West Corn in that room, actually, right here. And it was the dream of 8 or 12 of us, I can't count right now, who decided we wanted to do something to promote kindness and inclusivity and charity work in our community of steampunks. Also to encourage people to drink tea, because we love tea. And so we got together and we came up with a scheme to sort of gamify, as you would, going around and participating in con activities. So we have a bunch of quest chains every con we go to as a group.
Yep, and we offer little pins for completing these activities. It's a lovely endeavor. It's part of our grand scheme for global tea takeover.
Oh, totally.
The tea universe.
Tea universe. They are online. You can be a Tea Scout digitally. In order to do so, you just have to follow the Tea Scouts page on Facebook, which is Tea Scouts. And you can connect with some of the digital tea scouts to learn how they approach getting tea badges and getting the pins and how they work it all out. It's a great time. And you may not know it, but you may have a tea scout troop in your area and you just don't know about it yet.
That's so cool.
Yeah, no, so we have tea scouts all over North America into Canada. So from the States into Canada, I believe we have a few tea scouts in South and Central America as well. We definitely have tea scouts in Japan, which I love. And also they're lovely tea scouts. So we are all over the place, and it is easy enough to join, make your own troop. But if you join the Facebook group, we will alert you to where there are tea scout troops, who the troop leader is, who to talk to, and that sort of thing.
Hello.
Thank you. Hey, lovely. So would you like to take on?
This is our.
Talk about the
Okay. I will. You want
Oh my
to do that?
gosh,
Do
I
you want me
love
to
it.
hold the chaiju, or do you want to hold the microphone?
I can hold everything.
You can't do both. You can do one or the other.
That's true. You hold the chaiju.
Okay. I'll hold the chaiju. He wants to talk about himself. No, he's not very talkative.
He's a chaiju of few words and a lot of stomping, but a high regard for tea. So this is our resident chaiju and mascot, sometimes known as Godzilla. He's a little bit famous.
Right.
You may have heard of him. He hails from the ocean near Japan. He can get very cranky. Sometimes he destroys whole cities. Really, he just wants a good cuppa. That's what it is. So as long as you keep him, his thirst quenched with sufficient tea, he shrinks down to this size.
Yeah.
Totally manageable. Very charming fellow. Writes the occasional Chaiju tea review for us, which is fantastic. He's erudite, I'd say, when it comes to tea. Yeah. No, and he's been traveling with me for 3 decades.
Yes, so that's the chaiju, that's how that goes. So we do a number of different kinds of events throughout the con of venue. So this year we are the official Wild Wild West Con Steampunk ambassadors to the Galactic Steampunk Federation, which is a big to-do. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a bit of a business, and we're pretty excited about it. That's why we are very excited to host our first ever competitive contest of compliment dueling is actually happening this year. We're having a compliment dueling grand final competitioning. So it's going to be a delight.
Oh, so cool. So is there a strategy for this compliment duel?
Yes.
Oh.
So the idea is, a compliment duel is won by leaving your opponent flummoxed, or if the opponent commits a number of foibles.
Right.
So a foible is there's a number of different foibles. Things like very, very, or excessive
Excessive repetition.
excessive pauses.
Don't pull a William Shatner.
No William Shatners. You also want to avoid any backhanded compliments.
No.
Those are not compliments at that point. And the goal is to be so beautiful in your language that you leave your opponent overcome and they cannot continue. And they cede to your superior skill.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, and everybody feels good. I mean, it sounds kind of schmaltzy, but it's really lovely.
Yes, it's a love
I
time.
feel like this takes a ton of skill.
It's a lot of there's a lot of different strategies. The Grand Arbiter myself tends to take excessively overt metaphor.
You love those.
Yes, the stag in the winter, running through a beautiful field of white snow. A single leaf emerges, signaling spring. That kind of thing.
And that's you.
And that's you. A single leaf emerging, signaling spring. that kind of thing.
Yes.
No. The tranquility of a koi pond.
The way you wear your chapeau reminds me of a perfectly balanced series of rocks and boulders in a beautifully arrayed Zen garden.
It's making me wonder where this came from, the two of you.
Oh, where did this come from? Okay. So this began 8 years ago. Madam Askew and I have a mutual friend, Lizzie Mead of Silver Sea, which is a jewelry store here in Tucson. It's actually Tucson's favorite jewelry store.
It's true. It keeps winning the Tucson Weekly.
Yes. So we met at karaoke.
That's so cool.
We both sang beautiful, over-the-top songs to one another and stole each other's hearts.
It's true. And it was, thank you. It was delightful because we were both there alone and didn't really know anyone except the hostess, our mutual friend, Lizzie. And so we were sort of sitting along the side. All of these couples had paired off and they were sort of, crooning to each other or getting a bit, frisky. 3 sheets to the windish. And so we were sort of the sober people at the side. And we started chatting.
Yes.
And then history was made. Yeah, no, you can take it.
And part of the deal is our relationship began as just a friendship, but it became what it is now because of Steampunk. I don't actually live in Tucson anymore. I haven't lived in Tucson for 8 years. I moved to Seattle as we were first. I moved to Seattle after the second Wild Wild West Con. I arrived, I did Wild Wild West Con, and then I left town.
Like the next week.
The next week.
So sad.
But we have made this beautiful friendship. We have grown we have just reached over 1,000 followers on Facebook. And we have almost 50 patrons on our Patreon. So we've been very successful and very blessed to have people who are really interested in the art that we're making. And there's a lot of different art that we're making, from the costumery to working with artists developing coloring book pages. There's written stories. There's help articles.
Chaiju
reviews of tea. We've reviewed tea houses. Some have gotten less favorable reviews than others. The Chaiju is quite discerning taste, to say the least.
No, he dislikes the French press deeply. It's a black mark.
And does it grow big? Get destructive?
Well,
we had to call in a roofer last time.
Bad scene. We also do microfiction, so we send out postcards periodically with little microfiction stories, which is very fun.
And twice a week we do our live cast, where we live speak to everyone about some fun topic or things that are coming up, or I regale you with a tale of mystery. We've done a Madam Askew and the Grand Arbiter stuck in a horrible mansion with no butler. That was a series of escape rooms with evil automatons.
So cool.
We've had Madam Askew and the Grand Arbiter defend Thunderbird eggs from the Benedict family, attempting to turn them into Eggs Benedict.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
So extra. Yeah. Not necessary at all.
So yeah, no. We've also defended against tacky cursed garments from a woman who was cursed by Fae to make everything she touched into tackiness, and we had to summon our resources to work with the Fae to resolve that concern.
We cannot have that.
Oh yeah, no. Really just a practical guide of dealing with the Fae. Yeah, no.
Oh. And we talk about that a lot because we recently bought an estate attached to a fairy wood. So we have a lot of interactions with the Fae now, in addition to mad scientists and the caffeinotti,
So good.
who are out to see that no one has any good tea, and we're all forced to drink bitter, burnt coffee.
It's not a good scene. It's not. But we really love the art that we get to make. We've made a lot of beautiful pieces. We've got some beautiful costumes on now. You can see lots of pictures of us in our other costumes on our Facebook page, which is Madam Askew. You can find us on the Patreon with the Madam Askew Patreon. But we really just try to make a beautiful experience for everyone. The Patreon is just added features in general. Most of the stuff that we try to do for free, because the purpose of our organization and our existence is to add beauty to the world.
We are very deeply invested in returning to our community and developing collaborations, as well as encouraging people to make their own art. We host a year-long challenge called the Steampunk Sewing Challenge, which has a monthly theme. You don't get anything, there are no prizes. We just talk about sewing and costume making and creating all month around that theme, and then sometimes I do themed tutorials to match with the theme to help people, you know, create.
Almost
every Tuesday. Fairly regularly I do tutorials with our friend Temperance, so that's really fun. I love the Steampunk Sewing Challenge.
I don't know where you guys are finding the time to do everything.
It's why we need a time machine.
So is there anything else you'd like to point people to?
Indeed. We do have that sort of covers a lot of us. I think it's hard to capture us really hard to capture us, period. We're always difficult to pin down, but we have a lot, I think, that covers a lot of what we do. And really, if you're interested in more, the Patreon and the Facebook page, that's the place to start. We make a lot of fun gags and a lot of fun. We have Victorian memes.
Oh my gosh, wonderful.
Yes, we do. We have our friends Maud and Matilda. They're very sassy.
Well, and isn't there one unfortunate gentleman?
Oh, there are two unfortunate. Oh, you mean Archibald, the very unfortunate gentleman who's clearly on the brink of death at all times.
So we tend to we try to find really fun Victorian cards and different elements to sort of give a sense of that space, but also have like a modern take.
Well, I know we could just go on and on, but basically people need to check out those resources or conventions like Wild Wild West Con.
Yes. It's an amazing convention. The atmosphere is second to none because it feels like you have stepped into the past.
It has one of the best venues for like pictures and photography.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes, and we do Madam Askew does more, but as a pair, we do about 3 conventions a year. We do this convention. We do Outlanticon, which is a small LGBTQ fantasy and sci-fi convention that we go out to do in Atlanta, Georgia. And then we do, you should go, it's great.
It's wonderful. We love Atlanta.
And then we are I'm happy to say we are regular guests at Gaslight Expo. So that's our other out in San Diego, which is a delightful convention. And I hear this year they have Gail Carriger. Yes.
Gail's coming back.
Who we, of course, have deep love and appreciation for.
We adore her to an absurd degree, and we just want to give her tea all the time.
And we know what teas she doesn't like, which is very interesting because it is very opposed to our own tea tastes.
Well, I mean, a little bit. She also does not like fruity teas, and neither do we.
No, she doesn't like that. But she also doesn't like Darjeeling.
No, but she likes Assam.
Yes, we like Assam.
So it's not like we don't have overlap.
No, but we do have some challenges because Darjeeling is kind of your jam.
Darjeeling is the tea that fills my soul with a special joy. It also is the tea with which I've replaced my blood. So there's that.
There's that.
There's that.
That's that. So we will have to depart. We have to go off to host a tipsy tea with Mr. Professor Elemental. Mr. Professor Elemental.
He's not just Professor, he's Mr. Professor.
Mr. Professor Elemental. But if you'd like to hear from us, we're very easy to access. We're always happy to help. We provide questions to provide support for all sorts of questions. And our live casts are very well attended, and we answer any question that you have there. We have our Facebook, and we also have a Patreon, which is for patrons.
Well, to both of you, thank you so much. This was fabulous.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
They are just the coolest. I absolutely loved sitting down with them. And don't you just wish you were at that conference right now? You could go to their next event, but hopefully it just motivates you to go to some of the venues they mentioned in this interview, including Wild Wild West Con, which I absolutely loved. And I hope that everything else is going well with summer. Let me just remind you as we conclude this episode that you can join my beta reading group. So again, this is for my Norse mythology meets steampunk super saga. It's Peacock Levine and the Etherean Fates of Not. And if you want more information, you can always go to cindygrig.com. And again, you'll be able to beta listen or read. And I would absolutely love that. The first time I recorded this, I said, I would absolutely love you. And I guess that's true. If that doesn't make you feel weird. But yes, I would absolutely love it if you would help me with this at patreon.com, patreon.com/storypunks. Hopefully things are coming to a good place for you in some of your projects, but if not, just remember, there's only one rule. This is the only thing that's kept me going. There's only one rule, and that is to keep going. So that's it. And I still have so much work to do on so many other things. But yeah, it's kind of nice to celebrate this and to get to this point where I can share and answer in the affirmative when people ask me about where stuff is at. So that's always good. And other than that, I'm just wishing you the best until episode 53.